I'd been playing Ultima Online off and on since the late 90s. Britannia was my home until a slew of expansions turned the game into something I no longer recognised. I thought that was it. My time with Ultima Online was done until 2023, and I entered the free shard of Outlands, a modified version of Ultima Online with an active player base, unique progression mechanics, and a steady stream of updates. Just like that, the last 2 years of gaming have been a wave of both nostalgia and intrigue as I pieced together the knowledge I used to have and combined it with learning all about the world of Avedon and its unique mechanics. Ultima Online Outlands, it became home. And almost just over 2 years to the day since I started casually playing, I'm here to give you the good, the bad, and the simply okay of this popular free shard, to help you understand what it is and if this is a version of Ultima Online for you. Because while I think many will love and adore it like I do, I also think this shard won't be for everyone. The elephant in the room though, it will become clear as this review goes on, is that the length of this video is already off-putting to a large number of viewers, and I've only scratched the surface of what Outlands has to offer. There is a plethora of meaningful features and content that I've not covered. The impressive role-playing community for one, or the boating gameplay, which is almost a second world within Outlands. My aim with this video is to give as good an overview as possible for new players, while also touching on some topics UO veterans may be interested in, all while avoiding turning this review into an encyclopedia of information. This is, to me, the good, the bad, and the simply okay of Ultima Online Outlands, from my experience as a casual player in these last 24 months. To start though, let me give you a quick overview as to what Ultima Online Outlands is, so we have the same basic knowledge base before diving into what I think makes this shard stick out, as well as what I think may put you off as a potential player. Outlands is a free version of UO and has no connection to the retail offering. It has a dedicated group of developers that have built upon the core gameplay of Ultima Online, with an incredible layer of changes and improvements added on top. Launched in 2018, it is still going strong with a full-time dedicated staff and impressively an average online player base of between 2,000 to 3,000. Although of course, a portion of those players will be AFK sitting at a bank or a moongate, as is customary in Ultima Online. Outlands has a custom built map, which we'll discuss momentarily. It has a host of unique progression mechanics to maintain long-term PvM interest and goal setting, new skills and playstyles for players to tinker with, group and solo content, as well as a thriving economy not yet broken by years of unchecked item duplication. The developers run constant seasonal events within the world and even launched their latest expansion, Wildlands, back in May 2024. This added a new landmass, dungeons, skills, and progression mechanics for players to enjoy. With this incredibly brief overview out of the way, hopefully giving you at least a foundation for Ultima Online Outlands, let's dive into my review, starting with the good of Outlands. Not every single feature broken down, as a 27-year-old MMO with a layer of customization on top is impossible to cover in a single video, but instead a high-level overview of the good things Outlands does that may entice you into the game, or perhaps send you looking for adventures elsewhere. The initial major change any player familiar with Ultima will notice is the custom world. No longer are you exploring Britannia, but instead Avedon. Personally, this was almost a deal breaker for me. I'd spent years learning the cities of Minnock, Moonglow, and Yu. However, the incredible attention to detail Avedon is packed with make it an instantly more compelling world than Britannia, which itself was built in the 1990s to run on the hardware of the time. Avedon is handcrafted, from the cities to the wilderness and of course the deep dungeons. The attention to detail on offer is incredible, a passion project from the map creator that breathes life into your adventures within Outlands. The points of interest in the wilderness are my personal favourite, adding life and lore to the world with every pixel carefully placed. There is a love and attention to detail that, looking back, I feel was missing from the original game I played in the late 90s and early 2000s. The dungeons are an added layer of wonder. The stone arches and carpeted depths of Aegis Keep are a favourite of almost all players, as too are the watery depths of Palma, or the vampiric tones of Shadowspire Cathedral. For me though, the wilderness location of Undermountain is the clear standout. A cavern of wonders built for a lore event that has now been turned into my favourite farming location. The celled rooms have drow hiding in the shadows ready to pounce, and the caverns or swamp areas contain progressive spawns that have a chance to summon a boss for players to band up and take down. This wilderness dungeon would fit perfectly into RPGs like Skyrim or Baldur's Gate, filled with details that draw you into the world, while still, most critically, containing monsters that keep your attention as you farm them for gold and rare loot drops. For experienced Ultima players like me, at first the unique world may be off-putting. Gone are locations and memories you once had, but it's been replaced with a world filled with detail and love, and in truth, it will quickly become your favourite part of the game if you take the time to explore it and take on the monster killing or harvest opportunities it has to offer. Of course though, a lovingly crafted world is for naught without a reason to explore, and for that, Outlands has many carrots on plentiful sticks. In the original version of Ultima Online, the only real progression mechanic was player skills, taking your character to Grand Master level, and later, with the Age of Shadows release, achieving legendary status. Once this grind was achieved, players moved on to self-made goals, buying a house, decorating said house, and later grinding dungeons or champion spawns for set drops. This is not the case with Outlands, as the game has numerous progression-based mechanics that layer on top of one another to always give you something to work towards and achieve. An example of one of these mechanics is the codex system. Players can purchase codexes based on their weapon or other skills such as healing and alchemy, and these codexes level up based on use, unlocking points that can be spent within the codex to further enhance your character's power. Some of these unlocks are simple. For example, in the Archery Codex, you may unlock a weapon stance that lets you hit enemies from further away, allowing you to pepper your foe from relative safety. However, it does get slightly more nuanced. For example, with the Healing Codex, you only have a certain number of points to unlock and play with, and thus where you spend those points may differ from player to player. For example, I've invested my unlocked skill into pressure points, which gives me a damage boost. However, another player may feel their damage is good enough and invest the skill points into the skill Overheal, which applies additional healing to their character over the next 3 seconds, in essence giving them more survivability against stronger mobs. These codexes are short-term upgrades. Once you've completed one, your weapon codex for example, you'll not think about it again unless you want to switch to another weapon skill and thus level another weapon codex. Long-term progression is done via the Mastery Chain system. For every monster a player kills or locked chests they open for example, the player gains experience, which is stored within the Mastery Chain. At certain XP based milestones, this unlocks a link in the chain, which can be bought from other players or earned via certain mechanics within the game, such as the Omni-Boss event. These links, bronze, silver or gold, further boost your character's power and are unique to every playstyle. To give a clear example, I'm playing a Bleed Swordsman at the moment. It's my go-to character for group content. He is built to inflict bleed damage to enemies. I have, so far, unlocked 13 links. I use some of these link slots to increase my damage to bleeding creatures. In essence, my character template applies bleed damage via my swordsmanship skill, and then my links give me a damage boost to those bleeding creatures, further increasing the specific template's playstyle. These links would be useless on another character, because links exist to improve all templates within Outlands, You may have links that apply increased damage to barded creatures, links that improve your chivalry skill, heck, even links that improve your chances of acquiring rare goods or your effective harvest skill on your lumberjack. This is a long-term progression mechanic. The more you play, the more XP you earn, and thus over time, the more links your account can unlock. I myself am not even halfway to my character's true PVM power cap. There are other progression mechanics for veteran players I could discuss. However, in my opinion, the most common progression mechanic that a player of any level will be working towards is the Aspect Mastery system, a progression-based system aimed to, again, enhance your PVM experience. Outlands currently has 23 distinctive aspects, each with unique special effects and bonuses. Some of these are immediately simple to understand. For example, the Harvest aspect is commonly used by miners or lumberjacks. This aspect has the ability to give you a 2x yield proc on your harvest attempt. Basically, with each swing of your pick on the mountainside, you have a percentage chance to turn that swing into a 2x yield, doubling your gathering effectiveness. These aspects are often specific to a certain playstyle. The Lyric aspect is almost exclusively used by bards, and the Shadow aspect almost exclusively by backstabbers or thieves. Each aspect has 15 levels, with each level giving you increased benefits, but the cost will also increase. It is, for new players, the earliest money sink you'll find yourself engaged in. Where these systems get more interesting though is overlapping aspects. You see, aspect benefits apply to your armor, your weapon, or your magery book, meaning as a warrior, you could run Holy Aspect on your armor to take advantage of the armor buffs, or running Lightning Aspect on your weapon to take advantage of the weapon buffs. In doing this, you'd be splitting your XP gain between these two aspects, meaning each level slower. You also have to pay to upgrade each separately. But this gives you the benefit of mixing and matching your aspects to create a distinct playstyle to suit your farming needs. Aspect prices, this is the cost to upgrade your aspect, is based on the current meta. Some aspects are incredibly cheap because they're seen as weaker in the PVM landscape, whereas others will send you back to a bank balance of 0. You can earn the items you require to upgrade your aspect through grinding dungeons and RNG, but most of your requirements will be bought from your fellow dungeon delvers, the players of Outlands. This aspect system really is an ongoing grind. As a casual player for the last 2 years, I began my life as a bard, leveling my lyric aspect to tier 13, for moving on to an axe warrior who uses holy aspect, or my backstabber with shadow. Now and then I dabbled in lightning, poison and arcane. This is an ongoing and never-ending progression mechanic, because there is always a new template to try in either solo or group content, meaning the carrot on the stick will be forever having you run on this progression treadmill. This does mean there's always something to work towards, but it does have some problems, which I'll discuss in the Simply OK section of this video. As I mentioned though, to level up your aspect, you need the associated items. Shadow cores level up the shadow aspect, lyric cores the lyric aspect, and so on and so forth. You get the idea. To acquire these cores, you must get lucky in dungeons, but for most players, you'll be buying and selling these to your fellow Outlands adventurers, which means you'll be engaging in the game's thriving economy. Almost everything you will buy or sell in Outlands will be from your fellow players, be that via the buy and sell channels in Discord, within the confines of your guild house, or by using the player vendor system throughout the world. And when I say almost everything, I truly mean that. The codexes I mentioned earlier as a player progression system are crafted by players with Inscription. The mastery chains are made by those who've leveled Tinkering. If you want to level up your chosen aspect, you'll most likely be buying those items from other players. Heck, at a certain point, when you come to decorate your home, a lot of the items will be bought from your fellow adventurers. Then of course we have leather or plate mill armor, axes, fencing weapons, magery books, instruments, all of which can be crafted by tailors, blacksmiths, scribes, and so on. This requires players level up these skills, so in turn, they may need other players to harvest the raw materials for them, Or perhaps you'll find some of these items in dungeons and sell them to your fellow players for gold. The wheels of the Outlands economy are ever spinning. This leads to a vibrant and ever-changing supply and demand. To give a clear example, when I started playing Outlands in 2023, everyone wanted to buy leather, and few players supplied it. So I did just that. I spent my time farming leather and selling it to players for a hefty price. I used these endeavours to finally purchase myself my first home, a small wagon in the open world, until everyone else caught on and did the same thing, plummeting the average price of leather and no longer making it worth my time. And today, while iron ingots are in high demand due to the popularity of a certain template that benefits from tinkering, meaning the mountainsides of Avedon are packed with miners trying to take advantage of this need by their fellow players. The pendulum is constantly changing within the game, not just for resource types like iron and leather, but also aspect cores, mastery links, even housing types and locations. There is an ongoing push and pull within the world depending on the current meta or overflow within the market. For new players, it will feel daunting at first. There is so much to purchase: codexes, mastery chains, aspect, weapons, armor, and eventually a house. But all of it is within reach. I've seen new players in my Discord acquire a house within the first few months, while others focus exclusively on character progression. I myself have a humble abode in the snowy region of Outlands, the ground floor fully decorated, while the other floors and balcony area have partial decoration, waiting for me to earn a little bit more gold so I can buy some rare and unique items to adorn my pixel-packed shelves. The economy is alive, and while some are far richer than others, you can really get your footing in this world even as a new player in 2025 and hopefully beyond. Playstyle variety is a topic I'd never considered in Ultima until recently, when I look back at some of my videos here on the channel and realised I'd played the game in so many unique ways just to try it. Be that a dedicated miner or lumberjack, farming the evening peacefully away, watching Stargate on my second monitor, or my devious and roguelike thief, stealthing my way around dungeons and pilfering wares from my fellow players, engaging in the thrill of the chase as he hunted me down to retrieve their precious goods. I've played the game primarily solo, as my schedule dictates, but I've also gone on epic adventures with friends and guildmates, filling our pockets with gold and rare items. The vast majority of players will engage in the game's core PvM mechanics, fight in dungeons, at boss nights with your guilds, and advance your core progression mechanics. However, so many other players I've met and spoken to dedicate themselves to the path less well travelled. They are full-time thieves, eagerly showing their end-of-week spoils on Discord, or they exclusively interact with the economy, buying low and selling high. Others live on the ocean, engaging in part of Outland's most unique content, while I have fellow guildmates who have turned their hand to decorating as a way to make money, taking commissions from fellow players to turn their abode into something special. There is the common path of slaying monsters or gathering resources, but when your life gets hectic and you need a different approach, professions like gardening and so many others exist, a niche but highly possible playstyle to keep you eagerly logging into Outlands every week or as your schedule allows. In a sandbox MMO, I think playstyle variety is king, because some players have an hour to play every week, whereas others have multiple every day. Being able to tailor your playstyle, not just your interests within the game, but also your real life commitments, I think is critical for success in an MMO that, let's face it, attracts a slightly older player base. And then there is that community, a grey area when it comes to reviewing or critiquing a game. But there is no doubt that the community on Outlands will be a core reason to your success. A few bad apples exist in every game, of course, but the new player section on Discord will serve you with ample feedback and advice, as too will information on the wiki pages as well as the tutorials, adventures and the live streams of creators such as Pwnstar, Jace Owns, Wes Fugitive and so many others. For me though, it's the guild members I've met along the way. finding a group of players who share similar interests to yourself. I've been lucky enough to be part of one of EU's largest Outlands guilds, Lost in Time, for almost 18 months now. A dedicated community who organise and hosts events almost daily, be that boss nights, treasure maps, time dungeon runs, boating, or even the famed naked wrestling nights. The less you know, the better. Finding and joining such a community will only add to your enjoyment. And it's not just my guild, of course. There's the Loot Collective, the Knights Guild, the Pathfinders, the New Guild who dedicate themselves to supporting new players. There are so many great options out there, be it PvM, PvP, boating, or stealing that drives your core interest. For such an old MMO, on a unique rule set shard, it's incredible to see not just how established the game's community is, but how welcoming it is to new players of all experience levels. Just don't make a leather gatherer, that's my thing. There are a host of other wonderful features and systems that deserve their own sections in this video, but to do so would increase its already overwhelming length. The variety of housing styles and decoration options are almost a full-time endeavour for some of the player base. The gardening, mount breeding and sailing systems are unique game modes to themselves, serving dedicated players who do nothing else but engage in these mechanics. There's an incredibly healthy PvP community, with factions, dungeon flashpoints and open world PvP that Ultima is infamous for. This is a section of the game that in my younger years I was the most engaged in, but if I'm being truthful with you, these days I veer more towards the game's PvM and progression systems, as well as my continued love of Thief gameplay. Then there's the Time Dungeon, where many players have been lost to for almost a year now. A unique dungeon with thematic quests and puzzles, with dynamic encounters and a plethora of unique rewards. This is probably the most interesting and engaging system released to Ultima Online in any form for over a decade, and the fact that I've only briefly mentioned it should show you how much content there is on offer that I can't even begin to cover. A game of this size and scale will engulf you in options. It can be overwhelming, but as I mentioned in my playstyle variety section, this allows you to customize the experience to your own personal gameplay taste. This is a sandbox MMO experience after all. With so much good discussed and so much more left unsaid, I must also touch on the areas of the game I consider to be simply okay. Those mechanics or features that perhaps don't have the visibility they should or lack finalization. I'll also cover mechanics or social systems in the section that live in the grey area of Ultima Online. Features that many will love and consider the reason they play this game, but others will be instantly put off by, such as the Marmite nature of these systems. This is the simply okay of Outlands, the grey blur between the good and the bad, and we must begin with the new player experience. The new player experience in Outlands recently went through a major overhaul and is the greatest new player experience any version of Ultima has ever seen to the best of my knowledge. It allows players to choose from a predefined character template for those unfamiliar with the game, or create an advanced template for those with some previous knowledge. There is now a quest system aimed at new players, NPCs scattered throughout the world that offer players wonderful rewards for achieving certain milestones. There is no doubt in my mind this is a great change, a needed change, and if you've played Ultima Online before, you've got to understand a lot of this immediately, understand what to do, and be able to piece together the information to figure out where to go and why. But for the uneducated player who stumbled upon this game via a YouTube channel or Reddit post, oh boy, this first hour is going to be tough. For those new players, there's a lack of direction from the offset. Yes, the game does offer you a wiki link to learn more about Shelter Island. However, it does feel like the game is missing that very first piece of direction. Having the first quest appear as you spawn in would greatly benefit the player in my opinion. New adventurers head to the dungeon, new miners the mine, lumberjacks the forest, and so on. Some veteran players may hear this and roll their eyes, telling you this type of hand-holding is not at the core of Ultima Online. And to an extent I do agree. but the game is overwhelming enough for brand new players. I don't see the harm in adding in a few steps to at least point new players in a specific direction. I am against removing the sandbox. I am against implementing a full hand-holding quest structure. Go here, click this, now do this. I think all of that is not in with the theme of Ultima. This is a sandbox, not a theme park. But I very much believe that a little bit more hand-holding in the first 30 minutes to an hour would greatly improve the experience for those joining UO for the first time. After all, we all want this game to last for years and decades to come, and it can't simply be veterans from 20 years ago playing the game. We need fresh blood. For those that are willing to learn from the wiki outside the game, and happy to delve into Discord to ask questions, you will find a wealth of information. You will find what you need to succeed. This out-of-game learning is critical to your success, but in many regards, that in itself is something I consider a negative to a portion of interested players. There's a quote that rings true with me from Lazy Peon's first impression video of Outlands.
Definitely isn't an intuitive game to go into blind, and if I was to pick it back up again, I'd probably want to spend a few hours watching guides so I can figure out some goals to actually work towards.
And Peon is correct. There are a plethora of systems, or systems layered upon systems, you'll need to ask for help with, either by reading the wiki, asking in Discord, or watching a YouTube tutorial. The game's depth requires patience and desire to learn. For many, including myself, it's the reason I love Ultima. Even after 2 years on this bespoke shard, I am still learning. I love watching template videos or tutorials from Pwnstar, or simply asking questions in my guild Q&A Discord channel. This is a game of knowledge and experience, and it's impossible to extract it on your own with the aid of additional resources. Some players will simply not want to do that, instead wishing to be left alone to bang their head against the pixel brick wall. And while it's possible, the game will become more digestible and more enjoyable if you spend the time and ask for assistance. In some ways, this is part of the social aspect of the MMO that's being lost. The need to go out into the community to learn about the community in the game. But if I'm being fair and realistic for a lot of players, especially those with busy schedules, this may be off-putting. However, for those players who make it past the initial brick wall, there is a danger I've seen many stumble into. I want to mention burnout within Outlands for new players. This may seem like a strange point or a negative for a game, but bear with me. For those who stick with the aforementioned new player experience, who make use of the dedicated Discord channels and join guilds with like-minded players, a cautionary tale must be shared. All of the carrots on the many sticks I mentioned earlier can feel like things you must achieve now. You are constantly running on the hamster wheel and there is no end in sight. You need that weapon codex, you must have an aspect unlocked. It's time to grind the mastery chain. I have seen many noble adventurers try and catch up with established players, burning bright and burning out. Outlands is that classic saying. It's a marathon, not a sprint. For some players, grinding to the quote endgame unquote is what's fun for them, and min-maxing their experience. But for so many others, that rush to obtain power is exactly what will send you out of the game. Not only does Outlands have an exceptional number of long-term progression mechanics, but it also has frequent events, all of which can send you into a grind mindset. I've seen a lot of players burn out because of this. I mention this as overly grindy games can be off-putting for certain players. When I first started, all I did was play my bard, as it felt inefficient to try other templates, and I almost lost interest in the game because of it. I put efficient over fun. It wasn't until I dabbled in leather gathering, stealing, and so on, where I really found my personal enjoyment. For me, it's not about grinding one character, it's about trying different playstyles, constantly setting new and manageable goals for myself. From a progression point of view, I play the game incredibly inefficiently, but from an enjoyment point of view, I always find I have something new to try. The multiple carrots on the multiple sticks are a wonderful way to keep players engaged in Outlands. But it is worth noting this has a potential negative for some players, because some people like having a clear goal to achieve within a set period, and Outlands is not that. It's a never-ending grind you must take at your own pace. And finally, PKs, player killers, the ever controversial topic of Ultima Online. From 97 to today, the arguments are always the same. Player killers are, in many ways, one of the original core principles of Ultima Online, a lawless land where you can do anything. They are the real and ever-present danger in the risk versus reward gameplay of Ultima, and they are here on Outlands. I, for one, don't enjoy dying to PKs, but I am glad they exist in the game. They add a level of spice and danger I think the game needs, while offering a plethora of playstyle variety. Become the player killer yourself, or become the player who hunts them down. There are options aplenty. For new players, you will die to PKs in Outlands, and when I asked my Discord channel for feedback from new players, PKs were one of the negatives they mentioned. You will die, you will be looted and returned to your body to see it completely void of any items, be this by a PK, a thief, or a passerby who is chancing their luck. This will happen sometimes once a day, once a week, once a month, but other times you'll be plagued by the death screen multiple times in one play session. For some, the open world PvP rule set, apart from within cities, is a major turn-off, and while PKs solo and in groups do exist, they are vastly outnumbered by the players on the blue side of the law. Death will happen, but sometimes you'll also strike back and cause the death of a roguish player yourself. These simply okay points, as I call them, will bother some of you and stop you from playing, but for others are just expectations of an old game with the core DNA still embedded within it. So with that said, let's move on to the bad of Ultima Online Outlands, but if I'm being truthful, it's a very short list. The Outlands development team have made or worked with external developers to create a host of impressive client improvements, bringing the game forward in terms of quality of life enhancements while maintaining the initial feel of UO. The problem though, at least as I see it, is that many of these improvements are unclear to new or inexperienced players. Cooldowns, overhead messages, party pings, health bar collectors, a plethora of important and excellent changes. But my own UO videos are plagued with veterans and newbies alike asking how a feature works or how I got my UI to look a certain way. With a game as old as Ultima, I don't think it's surprising that such depth is unclear, but I do think a lot of these improvements could be enabled by default, encouraging players to interact with them to understand how to tweak and edit their preferences, rather than not understanding they exist at all. It speaks volumes that the Outlands client is better supported and developed than the current retail version that players pay monthly for. I will never go back to retail, I will never leave this client. The work the team have done is truly incredible. I just wish that these incredible changes were better communicated to newer players and not lost in patch notes or Discord history. As I mentioned in the good section, the world of Outlands is a unique and detailed landscape with plenty of nods and homage to Britannia, but this isn't Britannia. The cities you knew, the skills you remember, the adventures you had, those don't exist here and never will. For new players, this section can be completely ignored, but a lot of the established players reminisce for the old days, the game they used to play. And while the foundations of Ultima Online are ever present in Outlands, this is not a trip down memory lane. This is a reimagining of the game we all loved, updated for the present day while maintaining that core visual and gameplay experience. It is, as I mentioned earlier, the closest thing we'll ever get to an Ultima Online 1.5. It's not an evolution of the mechanics or the style, but rather a revolution. I want to mention this as a key point, because a lot of players just want to revisit what they once had for a short period, to make a new character in Rome Trinsic or Vesper. This isn't that game. If those players are unwilling or unable to learn a new version of Ultima, Outlands will be a struggle for you. I, as I mentioned in the good section, personally love this new world, but I do understand the nostalgia for home. Ultimately, this review is of course biased. I'm not being paid to give my opinion of the game, and I do believe I've outlined reasons why some viewers will never play Outlands, because this version of Ultima Online is not for everyone. However, it would be insincere of me not to say I enjoy this game. There is a reason I've played it for as long as I have and will continue to do so. Ultima Online Outlands is my home in the MMORPG space, and for those who've never played Ultima Online or are interested in this classic, Outlands is where I'd recommend you start. A thriving player base with consistent and regular gameplay updates that not only expand the world but add in new skills and methods of play. A dedicated and passionate development team. You may not agree with every change in Outlands, but there is no doubt it has lasted an incredible length of time with no signs of slowing down. There are of course many ways to play Ultima, be that retail, Outlands or beyond, so let me leave you with my favourite analogy from fellow Ultima creator Ponstar. Ultima Online is like flavours of ice cream. Some like vanilla, which could be the retail version of Ultima, others like strawberry, pistachio, even mint. These flavours represent the free shards of Ultima Online, UO Alive, UO Forever, and of course my home, Outlands. We all may have different tastes and preferences, but I think for a lot of us, Ultima Online was and is something special. So if you find that Outlands is your particular flavour of Ultima Online, the shard is ready for you. But if this review solidifies your opinion that Outlands isn't for you, I hope you try out the many other options that are still available for Ultima Online. Because while I hope this 27-year-old wizard MMO is around forever, it may not be. So find the flavour for you and enjoy. Thank you for listening to my first ever gaming review. It was long and at times rambly, but I tried to cover the topics I felt were important for UO veterans and new players alike. I hope my enthusiasm for the game came across, and I do apologise if I didn't cover your personal favourite topic, feature, or the shard you play on. Thanks to my channel members who support my work, and thanks to you for making it this far. If you want to see more reviews and opinion pieces, let me know in the comments section. Until then, this video is long enough. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next adventure.